with you. It's me, Cindy, and this week I am here with Simone Greenwood. Hi, Simone.
Hi.
So we are going to take one big moment and we are going to just, as the card in front of me says, we're going to breathe. And then we are going to start. I love that we are doing this while you are cozy in your bed. Most sessions that I do with clients, they are cozy in their bed. So I love that you're actually sitting in your bed. It's very cute. So I will just do a little introduction to who you are. And then we're going to hop right into our conversation today. So Simone and I met almost, was it a year ago?
Not quite, but getting there.
Can't believe that. So well, do you want to share a little bit? Actually, I always do this. Do you want to start?
It's totally fine with me. So I suppose, what happened is through Steph's either Instagram or Facebook, I got turned on to you. I am really, I just really love all this spiritual stuff and intuitive. So I saw that you were one. So I kind of did a deep dive into you. I started listening to your podcast. I booked an appointment with you after listening to one of your Reiki podcasts where people were just like gushing about doing a session with you. So I literally booked immediately. And then, basically at the time I was just looking for some help. It was obviously during COVID, but I was just struggling with trying to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I'm a mom and a business owner, but I was just feeling so unfulfilled. Can you help me with that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I feel like we need to explain more about but yes, so we had done this session together. And it's hard for me to explain what my sessions are like because, well, no, it's not. I can talk about how my sessions go. I often will blurt, even like I just did now. I tend to just blurt things out. And it's almost like I'm getting a whack on the back of my neck from an inside voice where I will sometimes say, oh, it's hard for me to explain. And it's almost like then somebody is tapping me on the head saying, no, it's not. And then I will go, no, it's not. And that's like my inner voice or somebody or something just saying, stop using your ego, which is telling you, do you know what I mean? The thing we're supposed to say. And then I get a reminder of duh. And then I blurt it out to the person. And so that's what sessions are often like for me. So we had this session and I had written for you using your first name, Simone. And then we had gone through some things some challenges or areas that you wanted to work through. And it kept coming back to me that you really wanted to help. You really wanted to help yourself, but help somebody else. Some like there was a greater cause for you, but you couldn't work that through.
Yes. Yeah. God, I feel like crying right now. That's crazy.
That happens all the time. Do it.
It wasn't helping that it was COVID and we really weren't able to leave our house. So like going to volunteer or do something I wasn't able to do any of that as far as like us finding easy ways to feel like we're helping. So I was just struggling with like, how am I going to help anyone? And I do feel like that is just my life's like, I don't know. It's something that pangs me all the time. Like, how are we just sitting here when horrible things are happening in the world? And I'm just living what I think is a beautiful life. And it just seems so superficial and pointless.
Yes. And I had explained to you, because you'd said, well, I can give money to people. You are very giving. You're like, I can give money to people. I can do that. But there was something within you. And I had explained to you that without thought, we were just talking, I'd said, there's been many times in my life that I have created things without much money. But I have done things that I thought I was good at and have seen a ripple effect in my life, whether it be a walk or whatever it might be. And so I said, maybe write a list of things that you're good at and that you feel passionate about, and then reach out to somebody and you can help them. And that would be amazing. And it doesn't have to be about money, but about abundance. And I could cry too. We're gonna cry together.
Yeah, and okay, keep going because
because I had seen in my own life that ripple effect of doing things that I was passionate about, carrying on and helping so many people, and how much more of a benefit that can be. And so at that point in my business, which we'll talk about, anyway, okay, yeah, go.
No, I was just gonna say, we always are thinking, like, in my head, all I was thinking is I like go help at a soup kitchen, or give money, like just helping in the traditional ways. And you made me realize, like, oh my gosh, I could help in more obscure ways. And anyways, that's how this led back to you. So I wrote the list. Since I am a business owner and I am very technical, I'm good at making websites. Like, I do all of that for our business. And that was, so then for me, I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm supposed to be helping Cindy. So it was very vulnerable. Like, I felt very vulnerable asking you, because I didn't want to insult you with that. Like, I didn't want you to say, what an ass. Like, what, do I need help?
Yes.
So I felt, I can't remember if I contacted you the next day or if it was it really the next day?
Yeah.
So I assumed I had let it go a little bit, but obviously it was just, I was like, I think I really need to help her.
Yeah.
So I just reached back out to you, and I think I said, I think I'm supposed to, actually, I would have the email, but it was, I'm here to help you.
And it was so amazing, because the backstory for me, which a lot of people know, but perhaps don't know all of the story, which I don't know if we ever know the full story, right? Is I've had this inner passion in my life for so long. And then I've had a drive. So working a 40-hour job with my 2 children, and then working.
Back up really quickly, because
okay, yeah.
Parts that I don't think people are aware of is that, like, you, up until this last few months, you still do, but you had a full-time job while you were doing this. And it was something that, like, when I was listening to your podcast and like kind of diving deep into your work, I honestly thought you were doing this for a living. There was just like, I was like, how is she possibly doing this and carrying on a full-time job? So yeah, I was really shocked to find that out. And I think a lot of your clients would be too.
I think, well, yeah, I think I have been so determined, as Stephanie, our mutual person, will know, is wildly driven. But and just before I'd met you, it was this idea that somehow it will work out, because if you're so passionate about something, it will fall into place. And I didn't have the funds. I didn't have the money to create a website. So it would be hours of me trying to figure out how to make a website work. And
tell everyone how technical savvy you are.
Yeah. And didn't have a computer.
Yes. So crazy. Another thing too, she was doing everything on her phone. And for me, I was like, yeah, that was incredible.
Yeah. So didn't have doing my podcast only on a phone and editing at 2 a.m. on a phone. I mean, I don't know how, but determined. And so I remember just weeks before you, I'd talked to somebody and they'd given me a price on how to create a website, because I knew if I needed to, and I've expanded my business all based on just, I guess, referrals. But I knew anyway, and I talked to somebody and they'd given me a price for website only, and not that it's unreasonable. I just knew I couldn't afford it.
Mhm.
And sitting outside, oh gosh, we're just going to cry through the whole thing. But, sitting outside of my office thinking, I'm never going to get there. And my whole wish is just to help people. And how can I get there if I don't have help? And then thinking, I'm so sorry, I'm ugly crying, but I just kept thinking, if I keep working, it will happen. And somehow it will happen. And then you called and I was like, how is this? I just will say yes. And it's the most remarkable gift, because as I say to you, Simone, and my mom will say, like, she's the most remarkable gift because I can give to so many more people. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
I know, but the crazy part is like, this is what I was seeking. Like, you're helping me because this is all I was seeking out, was to help and to find fulfillment in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, Frank, like, if everyone could just be doing this, honestly, because you feel good, I feel good. Like, it's crazy.
It's just, I know. And I think that's what I think when we want to help people, right? And so being able to see it in another way, what you've created, and you've worked so hard, and I want to be there right with you, showing you I'm like right there with you, like, to be like, obviously it's my business, but I'm like, the ripple effect of what you have done, I have been able to help hundreds of people because of it, and then they're transforming their lives, like and I think, Simone, like, I could never have done this. I left my job. I left a full-time job of 17 years because
Let's explain that. Okay. He had the same job for 17 years, folks. Oh my God.
the same phone, the same computer.
Can you explain a little bit what you were doing?
Yeah, so I was a licensing officer in a government job, regulating daycares, monitoring daycares. And it was a great job in some ways. Definitely, it was something that my mindset, which you, Simone, you've been coaching me with that, which I think is interesting, because you know, I don't know if you, because for so long, I've had the mindset that I need to stay where there is pension, security, and benefits. And because I'm a single mom with 2 children and a mortgage. And so I've had this, I want to call it lack mentality, I think, because I'm like, well, this is where I know I go, and every 2 weeks I get a paycheck that comes in, and I will do that job. And so I think it was near the end where I looked, and I think I sent you the photo where I was like, I have sat in this small little cubicle for 17 years with this computer and this phone. And to be able to see what you're teaching me on things where, because you know, with me and technology, and you looked at me one day and you said, how much do you want to make? And I said, well, I just need to make the same amount that I'm making right now, so I know that we're safe. Like, that's, $60,000. And you looked at me, you're like, oh no, like, you just basically wrote. And then I was like, okay, could somebody make that much money? Like, and
yeah, but don't you agree that's like it's so shocking to me to have heard that from you, that like okay, there's so much to unpack here. Sorry. Okay. Number one, the fact that you were in the same job for that long to me is mind blowing, because in that 17 years, I have had so many different jobs. I've owned two separate businesses. Like, just my life is complete. Like, I don't even think I spent 3 years doing the same thing. So to me, that is just, that's like jail. And I don't mean to say it that way, but
No,
for
it's
me,
fine.
that's what it is,
Yes.
because I love different, like, changing things. And so yeah, that was so shocking. And then it's also, I suppose, because I'm also around lots of entrepreneurs as well, that I didn't realize that people have that, like, are scared, I guess is the word,
Yes.
scared to change and make, for me, that's, I am willing to jump off a million cliffs in that respect. And
Yes.
yeah, it was surprising to hear. And then the money, yeah, like the fact that you just were, I don't know.
I think for me, yeah, I think, as I said, I'd be more willing to jump. And I hate saying this, but knowing it's my one income without
Oh,
somebody. Oh, and if it was only me, I've always said this, if it was only me, I would have jumped a long time ago. Like, if I had a little apartment and whatever, but I needed that security for my boys. And not to put blame on my boys, I never want them to think that,
oh my
but
gosh,
it was like,
it's
like
responsible.
I stayed in that prison for you. It wasn't like, there were things, but and it served me very well for a lot of reasons. But I do realize now, once I did that one leap, and I've said now I did a kind of a bridge, and I've done another job now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't need to stay anywhere that doesn't serve. Like, once you take a leap like that, it's like anything in life, right? Where, I've left relationships now that don't serve me well. And I'm like, oh no, if it doesn't serve you well, you honor your worth. And it's the same where if I don't like a dinner, I will say, I actually don't like the dinner. It's not very tasty. Thank you so much. And do that with kindness and respect. And I can do that in many ways. It is fascinating to me how scared I was about this element in my life.
And that's a good point. Like, the second you take the first leap of faith, you realize, oh, I'm going to sound so cheesy here, but like,
No.
the universe has your back, is
And
how I always go with it. Is if it actually is right and every intention you have is good, and the universe will have your back. So if you
yes,
take that jump, I don't know, it's always worked out for me. So, but I'm sure not everyone can say that.
no, but I think it's knowing that you're probably going to have fails, and you're going to have like some
Oh,
setbacks and all those
that,
things.
oh, and every fail I've ever had, I'm like, oh, that's why that
Yes.
happened. The failure only made things better down the road.
Yes. Because I look at that, like, that's why I look at this piece of this fall where, right, I had to take that other position.
Uh-huh.
That I look at, some would look at it and go like, well, that probably didn't work out so well. And I'm like, no, that was the bridge to get me into this.
Exactly. Yes. Like, it's the bridge. And now you feel comfortable. Now you also feel comfortable with taking the leaps
Yes.
and knowing you can do, oh my God, and the way you have so much drive that for me, I'm like, oh, you will be totally fine.
Some people will say that, they'll say like, I've never met somebody so driven. I don't even know that about myself. I just know.
Crazy. You go constantly. Like, I feel like I go, but you are like twice me. It's crazy.
I feel like it's something with, I've never, like, if you saw me in my other job, the licensing job, not at all. I had great passion for anyone I worked with, but when the clock ended and my day was done, I was done, and I didn't think about it again.
Oh, yes.
Uh,
It
but
is that.
this is different. This is soul work, which I feel like it like, to me, I get it now. I get I get it, like this, there's always more to learn. There's like so you're working with people all the time, and I'm like, oh, let me find out that for you, let me figure out that. Every single one of us is so unique. And so then I'm like, when you say something to me, you're like, we could do this, and I'm like, we could do that, let me figure out how. Right.
And I suppose that's exactly it, is once you are doing doing your passion, you have the drive because you're so excited to get up in the morning. Like,
Yes.
God, is that not the greatest goal for everyone to have? Is just
Yes.
to have the job they're passionate about?
I know, because that's why when I used to hear, like, when you're doing your passion, it's not work. And so
Uh,
that's where I feel like now I'm like, it really doesn't. I mean, I know I'm doing a lot right now, but it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like learning and doing it. And I feel like because of you, so really what we should explain is you are doing, like, you've taken on all, like, when people comment about my photos and they comment about all of my new website and all the new newsletters and all the fact that things are all streamlined now and coming together where before they weren't, it's that you have created and done all of that. And that you're not even like, when, because I joke to you, because people now are like, who's your photographer, who's doing this? And I'm like, yeah, she's not, like, that's not even her job. Like,
oh yeah, yeah. But again, it goes back to like, that is my passion. Like, everything I'm doing for you is my passion. Like, love taking photographs. I love doing graphic design, like all of it. And I love business. So it's like, me being able to help you with this is the exact same as you doing your job now, or let's not even call it a job, your passion.
your passion.
So for me, it's like, I get just as excited about doing this work for you.
Yes.
But
So I did think these are the things where, because I kept saying to you for the last few months, like, I really want people to, it was the same when I started posting photos and I was like, I don't know how to, like, it's not Simone photography or whatever. Like, I don't know how to tag you. Like, I want people to know what you're doing and to hear, that from my side of it, that there are these windows where suddenly when you're like, it's never going to happen, it's never going to work, and that energy does line up, and it doesn't have to be all within our own abilities. Like, when you just let go and release, energy falls through where suddenly you're like, I don't know how this arrived, but suddenly this person's come into my life, and that's how you've come in. And for you, then you said, well, I want to share with people that from your side.
yeah, like for me, I now having done this for you, um, it makes me feel good, and you are enormously complimentary. Like, God, I could get a big head over that, and you know how much it makes me uncomfortable. But um, but I just want people to know that, like, they all have something inside of them that they can give to other people that will help them immensely. So it may be like, you're a gardener and you love gardening. Oh my God, what I would give for someone to come to my house and like plant my vegetable garden for me. I would, you know what I mean? Like, it's something that I hate doing, but someone else out there loves it and would love to gift that to someone. So it's like, if we were all just doing, God, like, and just a little bit, an hour a week. You know what I mean? If someone came to my house and did a garden thing, like, game changing in my life, game changing.
Yes.
So it's just those little tiny things. If we can just be giving what we love to someone else who may
Yes.
not love that or may not be able to do that. And it just is such a cycle that we could make this world a better place for hopefully someone.
But that's it. Like, I think, because I've always said to people about, pay it forward and the ability to pay it forward. And I show the things where I talk about, handing out flowers and doing a ridiculous act, or creating things where, like I always say to my kids, where we just will subtly buy for the people in the back of our line, like,
Totally.
it's doing those little things, right? And that you can go out and you can do things that are, you don't, they all add up.
Totally.
And
You know what I was thinking too is that we never do for some reason is just even saying to someone, if we're like genuinely like, wow, your outfit is amazing. Or, okay, I'll give this example, and I gave it to you already, but there was a gentleman wearing these beautiful high heeled boots. They were bright red. And all I wanted to say is like, you look amazing, obviously, but thank you for like being in this world for who you are, because
Yes.
I can't do it. So like, why are we not telling people more, or giving them not even compliments, just like, I see you, I suppose.
Yes. And I think that is what, like Stephanie will say, I do. Like
Do
I will be in the coffee line and be like, and some people, because I think it's really important. Like if
yeah.
I see us like, and I want to say stunning woman, but I want to say any woman or somebody who's like had a really hard time with their child in line, because that's often been
Oh,
me.
I always feel like
And
that's
then you just want to be like, I totally get it. Like
great. Yes.
I'm here with you. But people don't do that. And so it's always been my nature to just be with be with a human, like
Yes.
just be with the human. Or like when somebody's owning an outfit, I will be like, you are rocking that outfit. And to hear that from a stranger is actually the most meaningful thing, because you're like, somebody just went out of their way to say that I'm rocking this outfit. Like,
And I can count the number of compliments I've gotten from a stranger on one hand, which is kind of crazy, because we should just be
yeah,
doing that all the time.
all the
Like,
time.
rather than what I feel like people are doing is just looking up at you up and down and giving you side eyes,
Yeah.
basically. But it's like,
Yes.
why are we not like, wow, like, wow.
Yes. It's just this it's a thing where we have a hard time sharing. And so I think, yeah, just when I call it blurting, right, I immediately
Yeah.
just blurt. And so it's the thought right away. So I mean, my kids are like, oh, here she but I think that is all ripple effects. Those are all of those things. It's the smiling constantly, the ability to just reframe your day to say, if you see somebody and just go like, do you need help with your car? Like, are you okay? And they might say no, but you've just your first thought is usually almost always out of kindness. And then you backtrack to go like, no, that's dumb. No, 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 I can't do it. No, 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 no. They'll think I'm ridiculous. Go with your first.
That was, yeah.
Unless you are feeling something strange, and then listen to that and carry on. But
But no, even like my sending you the email, like I really struggled with that, because I was like, oh God, she could take it the wrong way. You could be insulting her.
no.
You know, it just, all that goes in your head. Can I just ask one question? So what do you think that is? Why do you think people don't say that stuff? They're scared? Like,
I think it goes with confidence. People don't have like, they're worried, because I don't think many people will say it, right? So then they're worried that like, oh, that's going to come across wrong, or they're not, they're going to think I sound stupid, or they're going to take it the wrong way. And so then they just keep it in. So it's just it's the confidence might be the wrong word, but we don't often, that's it. Like, we don't have that inner confidence within ourselves that what we are saying comes out as truth. And so do you know what I mean?
I do,
So
and I don't, because then I worry, is it just like some people are just like, don't have those actually like nice thoughts, or do they have the nice thought? And yeah, I don't know.
I just think that I think the majority of people do have the nice thoughts, but they just feel like it won't come across. And some people don't even think it. Some people are just like, they're in their own world. They're in their own space. They're just so busy with their own life, or they're so consumed with, like, oh, I wish I looked that way, or I wish, whatever, which we all have at certain points in, right?
Yeah.
That's regular too. The more you actually acknowledge that, and then say to that other person, like, oh, you look like that looks great. The more you say that to the other person, it takes that judgment that you had away. So I have found that too, when I originally look at a person and go like, oh, she's really beautiful, I wish I was like that.
Mm.
And then rather than going like, I wish I was, to really honor her beauty. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Yes. Yes. And oddly enough, I remember this happening to me when I first got on Facebook. Because I think we all kind of have this thing where something will we're all obviously all putting our best foot forward.
Yeah.
So you see all these things and like, oh my God. And then obviously the jealousy or envy comes in. And I would start saying almost like negative things in my head, like, oh, well, it's not that, or whatever it was. And then I just started pivoting to like, wow, she looks beautiful. Oh gosh, like just pivoting it in my mind that it's like, no, stop starting with the negative, just start with a positive. And that has completely changed the way that I look at basically everything. Now, when I meet a person, I'm just like, so excited. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
No, it's true. It's all about reframing. So every picture, if you can reframe to go, just to think, and how we look, how we look at every single thing, angle of each thing, to know that when you look at the Facebook family and think like they've got it together,
Mhm.
one, to go like, I like that they can put that photo up. I like that they're having a happy moment. And then to also go like, obviously every family also has other other issues happening as well. We all do, whatever it might be. And then if you're feeling that moment within you that goes like, oh, whatever it is, to sit with that for yourself, to say, what's coming up within me, right? And that's okay. That's normal too.
Mhm.
That's healthy. Nobody's
That's all like those instances, they're telling you almost what you need to be working on, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, what is it in me? What is it? Why am I doing it? And you're meant to notice it.
Yeah.
And the more you actually notice it, the less and less and less it'll, like you're saying, it's just the less and less. And if we don't pay attention to it and we just continue to point out, we're not doing the work.
Oh, and then the way it makes you just feel in
Yeah.
as a person, like I just, it felt like I was just negative all the time.
Yes.
And now I don't. Yeah, it's so weird.
No, it's really good. Like, I think that's,
It's good. It's so good, but it's just realizing how little it takes to flip the script, right?
yes,
Just,
I know.
well, honestly, you just do it yourself, which is the crazy part. That sounds so stupid.
Well, and that's what I say, like when we had talked about, like when you were working on my website, you'd said, what do you want? It was something about like a tagline or something. And I just said, I want my tagline to be, you don't need me.
Yeah.
Because ultimately I want anyone I work with to feel so empowered that they don't want to work with me, that they really begin to realize like it's all within you, and that you can easily understand like within a few moments that, oh, I know what I need to do, and oh, right, I've got that too. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated, and that these are the tools and the gadgets, and what works for me and like what works for Simone is not going to be the same tools that work for somebody else, but they're easy.
Yeah. So, okay. So, were you always this like bright and shiny positive person, or what? No, like really, like what, as a child, what were you like?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So, yes. So people will say that I have always been ridiculously like this. um so this is, I think, like the majority of people that know me will say that, like I can look back at times, like I would say, from when I was like when I was married, at points I thought I appeared quite sad to the outward. Like
Oh,
I thought I was quite
yeah.
sad because I was sad for quite a few years, and people would say, we had no idea, you to everyone else looks so happy. When I was, so I still have a friend, we were friends since we were 6, and I go, like we see each other
Oh,
like we
yeah.
go to the same island or whatever where her cabin is. And she always laughed. She's like, you have the mind of an elephant. Like you remember every detail, which probably is something in there, of course.
Yeah.
And she goes, and you haven't changed. Like you'll see the positive in everything, just like you did when we were 6. Like, it's like, I was always the one who was like, oh, let's create a song and let's do this. And if the new kid came to the class, for some reason, they always were with me, and I would make everybody friends and blah. Like,
And so at what point did you realize, okay, I don't know what to call it, special?
we're all special, but we're not special.
But like, yeah, I put you guys on such a pedestal. People like, yeah. But like, at what age, like when is what's your nearest, or what's your earliest memory of knowing you could do this?
So I was very unique as a child. And I've had conversations now about this with my mom, because I used to have two friends that lived outside my window, that I could see. And so I did go for therapy for that. But
Can you just explain that a little more on like what do you remember?
Well, so it's turned out now, because I'd say to my mom, I can see these 2 women, they have hats, they're old-fashioned ladies. Oh, did you just see that? Oh, that was really
Oh,
you just saw. You're gonna have to see
wonderful.
that. Oh, that was crazy what just flew over my head just as I said the 2 ladies. It's gonna show up in the YouTube. So I would have these 2 ladies that would sit outside, and right now I'm just getting flour in my, anyway, there's so many things happening in this very moment. I just need to calm down.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Anyway, they would show up at my window every few nights, but it made it really hard for me to sleep. And so I used to line teddy bears up. And my sister used to always play a record. Oh, I could cry now. I didn't even think about this, to help me go to sleep, because they'd all go to sleep before me. And so it would be the Charlie Brown music. Now, nobody knew why I couldn't sleep, but if I could hear that music going, at least I knew there was sound in the house, because it would really make me nervous, because everyone would be awake or asleep. And so my mom ended up, I think we talked to somebody, and then she would help me go to sleep at night with like ways so that I could calm these things that I was seeing, but I couldn't define what I was seeing.
So did your mom think it was anything like intuitive?
I don't know if she just knew I was unique. So now, as we've gotten older, and I've said everything to her, she showed me a photo of her dad's sisters, and that's them.
Stop it.
So I hadn't realized it until now. They'd both crossed over before, and you have no idea what's happening to my body right now.
I want to know everything. Oh,
it's just all tingly, and like there's flour taste in my mouth. And right as I said it, there was a blue orb that flew over my head.
There with you acknowledging the fact that yes, in fact.
Yes. And so, yeah, so it was just, I could just visually see like this, like, and it was just a lot for me to take in. And I don't know what the message was at the time, but I didn't like it. Like it wasn't right or wrong. I just was very uncomfortable with it. And there were just women in these old-fashioned hats. Well, they crossed over, like they were older. Like my grandfather was much older than my grandma. So, right. Like, so they were old-fashioned.
Yes, yeah.
So it wasn't until we put it all together the last few years that my mom showed me the photo, and I was like, that's who I saw outside. So as a child, though, I used to, and I assumed all children did this as like when they were little. Like I just figured this was activities that everyone did. I would sit in front of my mirror, and then I would try to get into the mirror. So for a long time, I mean, I'm going to sound bizarre, but I would sit, and then I would go, like, I'd try to like put myself inside the mirror, and I would feel like my skin, and I'd wonder like how until I could levitate. And I'd love it. Like I'd sit in my room and I'd try to like all the ways.
what was the feelings you were getting and why? Because I find that very interesting that like you thought to go in a mirror.
Yeah, just I would just sit there for a really long time. And as long as I could focus, I thought I could get myself inside the mirror and then I could go to another world. Like I just knew.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know why I did that. And then I would just try, like I could feel, I remember just like I still can remember that, like feeling my energy on my skin and how I could try to levitate. I'd try for hours. Like I just loved it. And I remember often, I mean, I think a lot of kids have said this, but I used to think that my family was somewhere else, like that they were going to come back and get me.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
Like
I felt very different.
totally. Yeah.
And so those were kind of the things for me as a child. Like I just and then I closed it off. So I always could.
What age did you close it off?
Probably like 7. I didn't really quite figure out like what was happening. I just knew that like this didn't all make sense. And so I think then you just kind of go into the real, like I used to I would sleepwalk. I would go into my, like I would do all really intense things and whatever. And then that all just sort of ended. And then as a teenager, I could always feel the feelings of my friends. I just didn't understand it. I don't think, because you don't.
Totally. So how were you coping back then?
Um, I, I don't think, I mean, because I took on all of the emotions of other people, I was writing a lot, like, so dark poetry, like those sorts of things. And then just not able to express myself well, right? Like I just would put things down, got married, like moved in with a boy at like 18, right? Like, so I just kind of anything I could do to just busy myself into my own space.
Okay. So do you think you were trying? Yeah, it like sounds like you were trying to be quote unquote normal, like
Normal.
a normal life and just
Yes.
yeah, like if I just get married right now, everything will be normal. If I just
I just wanted to just like felt nothing felt right. I didn't feel like, I remember we'd have Sunday night dinners with my family. Even like when I was 24, I would cry at every Sunday night dinner.
yeah,
And it was not like, that's not normal. Like
yeah, totally, yeah.
and nothing, it wouldn't be that anyone said anything. I just couldn't handle my emotions very well. Like I'm an emotional person anyway. But it was like my level of understanding my emotions was so off because I was taking in everybody else's emotions from everywhere. So if I had gone out on the weekend and friends were all there, I'd be taking all of their stuff in, and then sitting down for dinner, I couldn't handle in, like it just was like so much.
Uh-huh.
And so I couldn't deal with, I couldn't deal with
Yeah.
it. And then I took on anything I could and tried to make a normal life. Until I think I snapped, and that's when my marriage ended. And then kind of like I evolved.
Do you mind? I just want to quickly, so can we just go back when you were crying at every
Yeah.
Sunday dinner?
Yeah.
Did you at all find anything to help? Okay, here's my question is I know a lot of children right now are struggling with this because
Yes.
I have a few in my life.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for them?
Well, that's where I think it's like now what I know is it's all about boundaries, and it's all about being able to, it's like, how do I set my day up? Like, so for me now, like I used to go out all the time and now I don't. Like, so people like back, I used to be the girl who would, and even for kids, like like when I was little, I was the one who was pleasing all the other children. I was the one who was like at birthday parties, organizing, always the one doing all the play dates, at every single event, everything. It was Cindy, 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 Cindy. That was me. But I never understood what I wanted. I've written a book where I said I was the consolation prize. And that's nobody's fault. I created it for myself because I was hopping from place to place to place, and everyone was fine. But I never saw myself as my own prize.
Were you also trying to, because you could feel everyone's feelings, that you were trying to be like the happy fixer of all things?
Yes.
So that, yeah, so that maybe you bring joy into someone's life, but then obviously the toll it must have taken on you.
Yes. And you know, at a very deep level, what's going on for every single person.
Yeah.
And so you understand what's happening for them and why they're maybe responding in a way that's not healthy, and why they can't give you what you deserve, or so yet you still go and you still try to support them even at the age of like 9 or 10, but yet you aren't supported in an appropriate way. And so I think maybe my Sunday night dinners was probably like the one time back then where I was able to just release.
Totally see that. Yes. Yeah.
And but I also have learned, like, I need like showers, I need like baths, like that's what kids like, where they're really sensitive, but they also need somebody to say it's okay to do nothing, and it's okay to sleep, and it's okay to have your own space, and to say no to everything. Really learning boundaries of like taking on too much. Like I did not learn that. And that's not like I wanted to be everywhere.
You were plugging a hole almost.
Yeah.
Like with everything else, just filling it. But yeah, that is so great. So when you did get married, was your husband aware of any of this?
No.
No, get out of here.
He's very he is very aware now of what I and will come and ask me questions like, what do you think of this and what do you think of that? I think he was very aware in our relationship that I am intuitive, and he knew that I was picking up, and very aware. He also knew that he knew that I was a sensitive, like anyone can be with me for like a day and know like that.
Yes.
That I'm a sensitive soul and that my heart, right? But he says now it all makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, there's just, I want to sidebar men and you. What is with men being so feeling like this whole thing is so weird?
Oh, you know what? It's an interesting thing. I thought you meant like men and me.
No, yeah. Are we allowed to talk about how many?
That's a whole other conversation. You know what? I think it's an interesting thing because when you look at it, I have a lot of male clients, but I think it takes a lot of vulnerability to go within. And so it's much easier for them to say that this is woo woo and like, and kind of push it off to the side, because that's what they've been told. I mean, we were told from an early age that it's like, oh, it's the witch down the street. It's right. Like that's what we were raised with. And it's not been until the last 20 years that things have started to kind of unravel to the fact that actually, like Steve Jobs, like you look at the people who've done so well using their intuition, and like it's not just the witch down the street behind a curtain. It's the majority of people who've finally said, I don't know why I just used Steve Jobs as an example, but I did. Maybe male related. I don't know. but there's so many that, and there's large businesses now who hire an intuitive, or a psychic, to say, because you know what, if you hire a psychic to come in, they'll actually hire in a better way than the person who's just looking at the resume. A lot of men, and I mean, I don't want to just use men, but a lot of men are still not heart open yet, right? So that's really uncomfortable for them. But when you go around it in a different way with them and you use a different approach, they do want to be ready for it. They do want to have those conversations. It's just how you go around it with them.
Yeah. Are they just scared you're gonna, like, this is my just stupid theory, is just that they are nervous that you're gonna like out them almost, like.
Yeah, I think it is like, it's that uncomfortable feeling of like, what's she gonna find out or what's she gonna say? But I think for
And it doesn't go for that. This is like kind of almost across the board.
yeah, like I think it's it is across the, but I'm not gonna find, like, if you're blocking information from me, it's not gonna, like, it's like some people, I always say, like, if you come into a session and you come in and you're trying to test me, the session's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so I always say when somebody's like, I'm going to bring my husband to the session, I always say, make sure your husband actually wants to come to the session, because if he doesn't want to be there, there's no point. Like, please don't drag your husband along to the session, like, and then have it be like a game. Like, I don't want that. Like, so please both come open-hearted, open-minded, because energy doesn't understand the way our conscious mind, like, it has to be open energy. And I've done, like, I did a beautiful session last week with a man, and he's just like, you know what, I got the advice to come in here open-hearted, open mind, and I'm doing that. And I don't know what the hell you do, but I'm going to trust. And he was a young guy, like 35. I like that I'm saying 35 is young. And so he came in, and he like, by the end, he was like, I need to refer all my guy friends to you. And I was like, I just love that.
Yeah. Totally. Yes. Yes. I love it.
That's what we need more of.
Oh my gosh. If we all were just open to this, for me, just growing up, it was so common in my house. Like, honestly, Sylvia Brown was like an idol in our house. You know what I mean? So it's like, I always grew up with that, and almost to a point where it's like, it's on such a pedestal that, yeah, working with you to me is like, oh my God, this is so amazing. She's like, I want to learn, right? All of this stuff. So, but I do realize that obviously some people don't grow up and know that same house.
But I think it's like, my kids grow up in it, right? Yeah. And I feel like they're so open-minded to it all. Like, it doesn't even, like, there's no, like, I think they're going to be such healthy humans because of it. Like, their relationships are going to be so open. Their conversations are going to be open because of it. Like, I listen to the way they speak now about spirituality, about meditation, about their own feelings. Like, you know, I look at Chase when Chase is upset and he's like, you know what, Mom, I need some time. I need time to process. He's 14. And so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Like, okay, like,
yeah. Can you, so you have two boys. Do you want to talk about, is there like their birth, like any of that, like earlier years? Oh my God. And back up even further. When did you start doing the work? Like, yeah, I need a little timeline here.
Yeah, they were interesting because I call Chase lucky because it took 3 years to get Chase, and wildly driven because several doctors said I wasn't going to have children. And so I often talk about that because I have epilepsy. And so I was off medication and having several seizures. So you
had to go off the medication in order to
try to have him. And so I remember there was one, I was on the sidewalk. There were two fire trucks there, and I have grand mal seizures. So I was down on the ground and, face smashed, and all these firefighters were around me, and they're like, okay, are you okay? You're fine. And I'm there, and I'm crying, and they said, what's going on? And I said, I just want a baby. I just want a baby. And I couldn't drive for a year. So I was determined to walk, and so that my work was not altered. So I'd get dropped off in the morning, and I'd go from daycare to daycare to daycare to make sure that my job wasn't compromised. And so I was like, nobody's going to feel anything different because of what has happened. And that's how I ended up starting Cindy's Walk, which grew right over the years, because I wanted people, there was nothing about epilepsy in Vancouver. So we turned all of the different places purple so my kids could see. We lit up Science World, and I got it. It was a walk that started with 25, and it grew to like over 1,000. And the lieutenant governor came. We sent kids to Disneyland. I mean, it was all these things happened. That's a long story, but so I ended up getting pregnant and had lucky Chase. I just knew, I knew that I was supposed to have children.
Yeah.
I had both of them, and luckily both those pregnancies ended up going well, and both of them within, like, Chase very, very quickly had breakfast at a restaurant in the morning where I saw my doctor. And then she said, guess I'm not going to see you today. And by 4:00 in the afternoon, I had him.
Stop it. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
And Hudson was due on Christmas Day, which I love Christmas. And so, had Hudson. And then, and then definitely, like I say to people, there's always tragedy, which I think builds your story and builds your passion for why you want to help others. And so Hudson had a thing with poison. He was nearly poisoned. Well, he was poisoned. And I always say this with people with tea tree oil, but
can you explain? Because I know of it, but I don't know.
Yes. So he got, they say, 3 to 4 drops of tea tree oil. And he was just a little baby. And he got it off the counter at a daycare. And within 30 minutes, he lost fine motor, gross motor, and was taken immediately into the hospital. And I still remember I was at a daycare and got the call. And I just remember walking, and they didn't tell me exactly what had happened. They just said, you'll need to come to the hospital, your child. And he was just, a little baby. And these are the moments I always say where it's a turn point. And I'm walking down that hall by myself, and 3 doctors just said, we have to watch him for the next 8 hours, because the next 8 hours, if he goes into a coma, we don't know what will happen. And standing outside and listening to that and thinking, what does that mean? And they said, you're lucky it's not wintergreen oil, because all of these people are selling oils and they don't know, they are not sharing the dangers. And I walked into that room, and I saw this little boy. He was just laying there, and I was so calm, and it was like something came over me. I just knew I only had that moment with him. And it's like you just go into a different place. Like you lose control of everything. And I remember I thought, I can look at his toes and I can look at his hands, and that's all you can do. And I remember there were 2 nurses standing off to the side, and they were just staring, because what could we do? And it's sort of surreal now to think about. This is quite the podcast. And it was this, I just sat there calmly and thought, I just have to be in this moment, because there's absolutely nothing I can do. And and obviously he was fine. And I still remember they then had me on seizure watch and him they moved him upstairs, and it was, I remember it was a day later or 2 days later, and he said, "All done, mummy, all done." And that's when I actually started crying. And the nurses said, "We've been waiting for you to cry." And for me who cries at everything, it was like I had gone into a different place. And it was a turn point in my life. Many things turned because of that. And it was the day I knew that I could take care of these boys on my own. And I made some huge life decisions after that. So even though it was such tragedy, and hard, it was like the universe needed me to see something, because I had had so many hits on my own head, so many horrible things happened to me myself. I'd had shingles and Bell's palsy and things, whatever, within that year. But it was like the universe was like, if you are not going to pay attention to your life for yourself, we need to hit you another way. And so that's what happened for me to go, okay, I'm going to make a life choice for myself. And that's what happened. So that's kind of the summary of what happened. And then I turned into, it was right after that I made the choice and began my journey into me.
Okay, so sorry, how old was Hudson when this happened? And then
Hudson would have been like 18 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then now he's a happy.
No, he's fine. Yeah.
Oh, Cindy, I can't believe you went through. There is a part of that story, because the thought of anything happening to my child, I'm like, oh, I would be a puddle on the floor. But then to hear that obviously something happens where like you are given strength to get through these.
Yes. I know like I say, I know people have gone through many different things. It's like, though it is almost like this immediate thing comes over you and you just are like, I can do this. And it's just a calmness that comes over you where you're like, oh, okay. And you become very calm. And then you just are in it. Like, then I can do it. I can do this. And I can't explain it. It was literally 2 days later where I was like, bah! And then I cried. But so I mean, that was just a little glimmer. And I know many people are dealing with many other things with their children, but that was definitely the moment for me where, and I remember I went to the daycare after, 3 months later, they were, they had, the daughter had run away after she felt terrible that she'd left the tea tree oil out, all these things. And I went back, and some people wanted me to sue the daycare. This is ripple effect. I said, no, I'll never do that. And I went to the daycare and I hugged the daycare person, said, thank you so much, because if this hadn't happened, I wouldn't make the life changes I've made today. And I needed this. So sometimes we need really horrible things to happen in order for us to do brave things. So that's one of them. And I'm sorry it happened to Hudson. And I'm sorry that the daycare had to go through it, but I needed her to know that I was so grateful. And that's what I did.
Yes. Oh my God, Cindy, that's incredible. God, the weight that was probably lifted off of that.
She just was so grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, not even like you think of all the legalities, like it's just the simple fact that you've hurt a child, right? Like,
yes.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be hard to move forward.
Yeah.
Okay. So this happens. Was it almost immediately that you were like, oh, I gotta make a change here?
Yeah.
Really? Like months, days?
I think without getting into too much detail, sometimes things happen in tragic, like in moments like that, where you see how people behave. And so what I saw in that moment was enough to show me that I could be on my own.
Yeah.
And so I made the choice.
Yeah. And how scared were you at the time?
I think I was okay. I think I definitely, it was still a year and a half of work that happened after it. It's just that I made the I'd been wanting to make the choice to do that for about a year, but couldn't say it. And so then I made the choice. So then it was all the legality of all the things that were going to happen. So that happened. And then I dove into and then it's like the state of, and I've written about it in my book, that like, I would look at water and I'd be like, oh my gosh, water is so beautiful. Like what, like running water, like everything felt like amazing because I had trusted my own choice. Like I could not believe how free I felt.
So maybe like almost like a rebirth, or
It
like,
was like yes.
yeah.
And
So like
so
everything new and exciting.
it was, yes, like
yeah.
I was like, like saying that I was going to like take on the world, like everything was ahead of me. I can't even explain what that felt like. And even though I was like, I know there's going to be scary times, but yeah.
Anyways, that's really good for probably a lot of people to hear that yeah, there's more excitement and joy probably in it than you assume in the beginning of making.
Well, I think it's where, like I say that people would ask me at the time, like, oh, but you're going to be alone. And I was like, I'm not going to be lonely anymore. Like I'm not going to be lonely. Like, so I might be alone, but I didn't feel lonely anymore. Like, if that makes sense. Like,
yes, because when you're in relationships with people that maybe aren't giving themselves to you, it can feel lonely.
Yes.
You're not alone, but you feel lonely.
Yes.
Yeah. This is gonna be the world's longest podcast.
I know. I'm gonna have to edit a lot of it.
Haven't even gotten to that. So anyways, so then when did you start like accepting that you could do all this stuff?
So so then I got a hit on the head with a metal bed frame.
Yeah, have you explained this before in the podcast?
No.
Oh, you should probably explain because it's ridiculous. But it's just who you are and like so driven and like go.
I know. So yeah, so it's so interesting too. I know we'll definitely have to edit out some of this podcast. So I remember I had broken up with somebody, which that day. And so I was processing, and when I process, I clean.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so I just remember I'd gone through this. I knew I needed to do it, which whatever. And then I was downstairs. There was somebody arriving to my house. So I was like extra cleaning her room. And so I decided to lift the bed, and I had moved the large metal bed frame, which is like 40 pounds. One of those, those old school metal bed frames. So funny. And I leaned it up against the wall. And then I was vacuuming out, and I was thinking about all, like, to me, it's just the best way to work through your issues is to clean and purge. And the next thing I remember, I was laying on the floor under the metal bed frame. And so I just remember like, whoa. Yeah. And lifting the metal bed frame up and all this blood and going like, oh God. And so what I did was I wrapped large towel around, organized that when my one son would go to soccer, and I would get Hudson and we would head off to the hospital to sort out what the heck was going on with my head. Mm-hmm. And I remember the biggest joke was the guy wanted to shave part of my head. My God. And I was like, no, I am single. Good for that one. And so he then said, okay, well, it's like 12, 14 stitches in the back of your head. And so I was like, okay, great. All right. I went home and he didn't tell me that I'd had a concussion. He just said, like, you got this whack at the back of your head. So I got on a plane and went to Minneapolis a day later. And I don't actually remember much of the trip. And and then came back and I took the boys on a bike ride, and that bike ride with us going up and down, I ended up with a 16-hour or a 16-hour migraine, which I've never had. And I took myself back to the hospital and they were checking for a bleed. And and so I was like, oh, I think this isn't good. And so then the doctor, and my mom came with me, and the doctor came in the room, and I still remember he was just like, okay, you know what? You now are done. Like, you are done. You need to, like, you're off work. You're off work for like 3 months. You cannot be on a phone. You cannot watch TV. You cannot drive your car. You cannot walk around the block. You cannot do no parties, no, basically COVID times 100.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was so relieved because I was living such a social life. It felt like the best news ever in a lot of ways. I was like, oh my God. And so I came to my bed and I was like, oh my God, I don't have to do anything. Like, I don't have to do anything. But the foggy brain was so hard. I couldn't add or subtract. Like, I couldn't figure out Chase's birthday. I had to go for like to a specialist twice a week. And they were like, okay, what is this? And I'd be like, well, it's in my head. I knew it was a giraffe, but I would say elephant.
Stop.
And so that was really scary.
No kidding.
So I looked it up and I found Reiki. And so I decided, well, I should probably go do anything at this point that will help clear this fogginess, because that's what it said it would do. And I went in, and within the first session, I was like, I'm in love. I love this so much. I can't explain it. Like, this doesn't make sense. So I booked 3 sessions because she had just said, you know what, coming more than once will actually be better for you. So I did. And then I decided to do the training, and I fell in love with the training. And then I created a studio in my house, and I just did it for free. And right away I was just like, people need to be doing this, and I love it. Like, and I was, again, wildly driven, and was like 3 nights a week as soon as my concussion was gone. But and so people were coming over, and they were coming over, like, I'd have like neighbors, I'd have children, I'd have anyone. But what I didn't realize was that I was actually channeling at the same time. So I was channeling, I was seeing their tattoos. I was seeing things that their dead relative might have shared. I was seeing things for their future, things for their past. And so that I needed to sort, because obviously, if you're just coming for relaxation during a Reiki session, I needed to be able to block that or tell them so that it's a respectful session. So I was having to learn that.
This may seem like a stupid question, because obviously I know the answer, but the listeners may not. But can you explain Reiki for people who don't know?
So Reiki is energy healing, and so it's just basically knowing that we are all energy. And that is a hard concept for lots of people, and there are different podcasts where I explain more details on it. But basically it's going through and clearing or supporting clearing by asking for higher source to come and support you, and clearing all of the different chakras that we have, and allowing negative energy that we have within us, because like I said, some of us collect more negative energy than others, but clearing that energy, that the negative energy that we bring into our force field, our energy force field, and allowing us to have a clearer, positive energy.
And just out of curiosity, that first session you did after your concussion, did you see like results right after, or did you just feel?
Well, like I say with Reiki, it's not that you're just going to suddenly be healed, but it's going to allow you to feel more clear and more centered. And so when I was in that session, it was that I felt calm and I felt relaxed. And because I had been feeling this sense of panic, and like anxiety when I'd go and I'd be like, that's a giraffe and I'm seeing an elephant. What?
Like, I can't even imagine.
Right. And so what I needed was balance of, I need something that calms me down and I needed a source for myself. And so when I went there in that hour, I'm like, oh, and 1 hour of Reiki is equivalent to 4 hours of REM sleep. Like you're going and you are getting like deep in with yourself. And so it allows you that space to just go and get and sort out the feelings that are in your head. Like it allows you to let go and release. And so that's what I was needing. I was needing clarity. And so I felt calmer. And I do now. Like even the other day, I had one of my students who lives in the States I was like, I just need some. And so she'll send me some because we all need work, right? So
yeah, no, it's really, so then you started doing the Reiki, and then what came next?
well, then because I realized that I was channeling, and so I had booked somebody to come in to do I always say I do things without thought, right? But it's always with a lot of thought. So it's almost like I just get a pang of this is what needs to happen next. And then it all sort of lines up. So I invited somebody to do like a girls' night at my house to do a girls' reading.
Oh, cool.
And because I was really then very curious about like how does this all, I was getting into energy. I was going to circle nights for myself once a week so that I was learning and trusting how to build my own inner knowing. I was doing all this stuff. And so then I was like, I'd heard about this woman, Luca, and I invited Luca to come and do a circle or like a intuitive reading for 7 of my friends. Cause I wanted my friends to sort of start to get into what I was doing. And so she came and did one. I had gone to some different psychics over the years, and one had offered Natalie Miles to mentor me, but it was, again, this is where I talk about these things line up. She'd offered to mentor me, but it was $7,000.
Yeah.
Super expensive. So I was like, okay, no, I can't. That's just, I don't have the funds, whatever. So Luca had come and it was this magical night. And people say it looked like I was Santa or she was Santa and I was like the little kid because everyone else is sitting around on the couch like ladies. I was literally curled up like a 2-year-old at her feet. Like if I could have wrapped myself around her, I would have. Like I was like, I need
what it was like her energy, or just like I don't know.
dude, sorry
about it all that you were doing that. Oh,
sorry. I don't know what it was like.
Huh.
I don't know. I just knew I wanted to almost sit on her lap.
Yeah. Huh.
And so we had this great night and then she offered to mentor me for free.
Oh. Again, right? Yay.
Which is why then now I have that in my program that I will always offer one person a season for free, because that happened for me.
Yeah.
And so then she did that, and then that's how it opened. So then she was showing me all the different ways of how to use my intuition and how I was doing it, and just basically to trust it, how it was working in my life. So I did that once a week, and starting to exercise it. So then she told me, she's like, you know what, just start bring people into your house and start doing readings, and don't charge yet, just begin to trust. So that's what I did.
And how do you remember your first one?
I do remember my first one. And I just had said to my friend, I'd said, okay, I want her first name obviously, because that's how I do it now. And I continue to do it. And at the time, what I was saying was, I would like to know that I wanted to give the person proof that what I was doing was accurate. So I just remember saying, I will write their first name down. I'm going to write for them. Then they're going to show up. I'm going to show them what I've written. And then we're going to have the reading so that they'll see I know what I'm doing, right? And that's just now become my standard practice. So this woman arrived. I'd written her name. She came, because back then it was all, I was doing it live, right? And she came and sat down, and I said, oh, I'm so nervous, whatever. And I remember I had drawn going around the world and 2 potatoes, which, because I get metaphors, right? And there was a garden, and there was like a grave, like somebody had died, but wanting the plane to go around the world again, and something like that. There were some other things too, but those were the ones that stuck out. And so anyway, when we talked, her husband had died on their trip to Ireland, which represented the potatoes.
Yes.
And she wanted to come to me because she wanted to know if he would be okay if she traveled again.
Oh, wow.
Which symbolized the trip of the plane going around the world again. And so to me, I was like, oh my gosh, this does really work, because I was like, I don't know what these potatoes mean. But and then like, so it just shows, and there were some other things too, but I was like, I sat there and I was like, oh my God, like I only knew your name. Like, how did I just draw all this? Right. And so it just shows you that that's how it works. And she was like, I can't believe he came through. Like that's what it is.
Yeah. And so now when you're doing readings, does someone always come through, or like how no.
So it really varies. Like I always say to people, if they want to go to a full medium, that they'll need to ask to go to a medium, and then like they can set up an appointment with that, because I don't want I'm boundary centered with my work. So meaning I want to live my life, like I want to enjoy, how do I explain that? I have boundaries with what I allow in. Mm-hmm. And because I've got boundaries with what I can allow in, sometimes I don't get messages in certain ways, which I think is the healthiest way to do spiritual work. So it might mean that you're not going to be a channel all the time, but it means that you also are not going to get all the negative stuff. And it means that you're able to live a healthy life, and it means that you are clear with what's really important to you. So
can I say, like, maybe it sounds like maybe you just open yourself up to whatever messages there.
I can open myself up in that moment
Coming forward, or like,
yeah, like I will open myself up. But what I explain to people is that I also have created boundaries within that, so that sometimes it means I won't get everything. And I think that that's the healthiest way to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of well, I don't know. I would imagine people are looking for loved ones to come forward. Well, I suppose to know they're okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they set the intention that they want a message from the other side and they book that, I always say, definitely set the intention that that's what you want. If that comes, and then during our session, I would say like 70% of the time, they'll often get a message. I just don't want them setting the intention that that's going to be what is going to happen, because it becomes too much pressure, and that you can't guarantee it. I think if you're going to guarantee a message, then I don't think you're being an honest medium, to be honest. But because you don't know what's going to happen on the other, you just don't know.
Yeah. What is your intention when you do these readings?
My to give people power back to themselves. So when somebody says they want to know their future, I'll say no.
And sorry, why is that? Why?
Because as soon as somebody, and there's a chance that something might come through for their future, maybe. But if somebody comes and says, like, am I going to have a baby in 2 years, or am I going to meet the love of my life, or da 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 da, they suddenly have lost all power in themselves, and they're giving their power over to me. And so suddenly now it's like, well, Cindy said this is going to happen. And so then suddenly it's like they've lost will to work on themselves, and they've lost will to create their own future, and they've lost drive within themselves because they're going to a psychic to make the work happen. And that's not how life is. You have the intention and the power to create whatever path for the future is going to be. So the best thing to do is actually to open the file at the back of your head and do the work that you actually need to work on, which is the stuff that's happening currently that you are avoiding.
So someone who is coming to you, I suppose their intention would be that you help guide them to what really they're supposed to be doing.
Yes. And the majority of people that come to me they usually are looking for guidance within their current present time. And so sometimes that means unpacking something from the past. And so then suddenly it might just be like, oh, wait, what happened 4 years ago? And they'll be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. And then we unpack that. And then that helps them in order to get better, whatever it is, clarity for the future.
Totally. I kind of think of you and the work you do as almost like a psychic therapist, where it's like you get to the point quicker. Like with the therapist, you're going to have to take months of getting to know each other. She's going to have to like pull these stories out of you so then you can start working on them. But it's like you are just like, what happened here? And then you can now just start working on it. And then
it's really true. It's what I had found I actually did a group thing on Sunday, and the person said, oh my gosh, this is like as deep as therapy, but we just did that in like 2 hours. And I'm like, yeah, it's just, I can't explain it, but it's like, I connect in with your guides, and I'm like, and somebody will be like, I wanted to talk a lot about my work. And I'm like, you actually want to talk about the boyfriend? So, and they're like, yeah, I do. I'm like, yeah, okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
And so that's what we talk about.
No, yes. Oh my God. Like to be a fly on the wall during your sessions. It just fascinates me so much.
But I think it's good because it gets you to the heart of what you really want to talk. It's the same with me. I'm just thinking now when I'm crying today, I'm like, oh, I haven't really talked about what happened with Hudson in a long time. Like, so it's good to talk about those things, right? And allows us to, and I go to my own intuitive guide because every once in a while we're too close to ourselves. So I need to go to do that for myself and then break through.
Yes. Are you able to tell me any crazy stories from sessions?
From sessions?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any
like you've texted me some things and I'm like, oh my God, how did you know that? How?
Like I think what I remember, who was it that told me? I think it was Luca that said, continue, because I don't have trust in myself, in my ability. So she had said, continue like to say that, like, be note that the what you're capable of doing every once in a while, because even though like when I share that with you, like, I can't believe that that just happened, because I don't believe still that I am a psychic. Does that make sense?
It does and it doesn't, because it's like, oh my goodness, you have had so many experiences, and the things just the small little bits that I've heard, I'm like, this is crazy. This is incredible. You're magic. This is
Well,
unbelievable. So for you to even be like thinking it like, or just question, I guess we all question
I
ourselves.
think it's,
Oh,
this is the hardest thing. Stephanie was saying this the other day. She's like, Cindy, I asked you about Lola having her stomach, a dog had a
yeah.
stomach upset, and you closed your eyes and said she swallowed a coil. And then 2 days later, she pooped out a coil.
Like it's, yeah, like to me, I'm like, wow, how you would have any insecurities at this point
I know.
is mind-boggling.
I know that
But
these are the things I think about every day, where I go like, gosh, that's really, but I think because it comes so easily to me, that I think this must be this easy. It's the same with me with the automatic writing, or right, where everybody in the course right now is going like, well, why is this not so easy or whatever? And I think, oh, well, maybe that's interesting because it's so like
it shows you that yes, you are again special. But something that I just took from that is it goes the same way for me with my work with you. You are dazzled and in awe of the things I can do, and I'm like, but it comes so easily to me that it's not difficult. If it's not difficult, I must not be that good at it. Oh,
yeah.
that sounds so silly, but
No, but that's the truth. Because then I think like, so every time I go into a session and I'm thinking there and I'm like, okay, I just wrote this. And then I just said this, or like the time, like the one example I can give, because I'm wanting to be aware of people who might be listening and their story.
100%. And it's like giving a little tip, like the
like,
dog thing right now.
the
Perfect.
dog one, or like drawing. I always give the example of, because so this one always pops out in my head, but where I drew out and I thought it was like I thought I was drawing like a science, like I can't even think what the word would be, but it looked like it was like an old fashioned map is what I was drawing.
Okay.
Like, and I went and met this young guy in a cafe. And so I sat there with him and said, actually, this is actually a really interesting story. Because so I said, oh, hey, I don't know if we're going to talk about like math or science or charts, but I drew this. And and he looked at me, he went, oh my God. And then he lifted his arm, and then I had drawn the tattoo that was there. And he was like, okay. And I was like, oh my God.
Like,
I'm so excited.
yes.
And then what was really cool about that, actually, which I haven't really reflected on, was he had two. So I did say the future a little bit for this guy. He had two options. One was to go be a ski bum in Whistler, which I don't know if you call them ski bums, but he was like, do I go up to ski in Whistler? This is what I'm deciding. Or do I go on this 6-month, like travel into whatever and be on a ship with this guy? And I said, you go on that ship. And he was like, what? And he's like, my mom will kill me if I do that. And I said, no, you're going to go on that trip. And there's something to do with a camera on that trip, and you're going to do it. And he was like, I don't know. He's like, I really think I should be in Whistler. And I was like, no, you're going to say yes right now to that trip. And he was like, okay. And so he did. And then sure enough, now he's the lead camera guy on Survivor. He got
Stop it.
I know. So that's it, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
I know. So those kind of things.
Cindy, and like how amazing. You go to bed every night knowing you have changed people's lives.
Well, they change their lives. I'm just there while they're doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's,
yeah, but if you and people like you weren't willing to be open and vulnerable to say possibly something wrong,
yes,
we wouldn't get these messages with guidance. And yeah, it is incredible.
I think it's that I am willing to always look dumb. I am willing to always And that's where I looked at it. Like I was thinking this even the other day. Like I am always willing to say the stupidest thing and always willing to be the first one out there. Like, and always willing to blurt, because the blurt is usually something that can help somebody. And I always just think, even if it makes like a small difference, why would I not do it?
Yes, totally. Anyways, it's amazing. I'm so glad you do it.
Thank you.
I, I don't know if many people know about this. So, emotion code. Oh my God.
Oh,
Okay, you did a thing on me and it was my shoulder area. It was driving me crazy for months. Just a pain in my shoulder that would not go away.
yes.
And then you did the emotion code on me for that. It's been gone ever since.
Oh, good.
Yes, yes. And I still can't believe it.
So that's similar to like really energy work, but it goes deeper because it's you doing the work, and we go in and we ask your subconscious the yes or no, and then ready, because we all have this like emotional like stuff within us, all of these emotions that we have trapped within us. And then we ask your subconscious a series of questions, and then we go in and we release them. And it is so fast, so easy. And it's just going in, clearing it, and it's done.
It was incredible. Like I still cannot get over it, because
I've done it now. Like watching people, and some people will have like definitely on their heart wall, or they're going through and they're, like one woman's working on some weight that she's trying to release. And so some weeks we do it, and I'll say like, okay, does so-and-so have an emotion that is ready to be released on her weight? And she's so ready, right? She's like, I'm ready to do this. Her subconscious says no. So we can't do any emotion code because her subconscious is like, nope, she does not. So we can't go in. I mean, that's
to get over that, or
no. So you can work on like, so we've been able to ask, like, is there another emotion that she's ready to release? Well, yes, there is, but not like, so it's your subconscious knows much more than your conscious mind. So when you're so driven on, I want to release this emotion and do all that, but if your subconscious is like, nope, I'm not going to release that yet, you can't do anything. So you just work on other areas. But I find that fascinating, because I'm like, okay, are you ready? And then I ask a question. I'm like, oh, no, not today. It's not going to work.
Oh man, what a bummer for that lady.
I know, but she's okay because she's just doing other work. But I love that too, because I just think it shows.
Of course.
Right?
It's like a path. Like, yes, like yes. You need to do the steps.
Do these steps and then, yeah.
Oh.
So she's still clearing. So it's like, well, you need to clear this emotion here and this emotion here, and then we can get to the weight release. Yeah.
So I'm just realizing, does it make the most sense to be doing one-on-one sessions the same time you're doing emotion code?
Well, you just book a series of the emotion code, and then it's all in one. So then we typically will do like 30 minutes of conversation, then release some emotion.
That's getting it out.
Yes.
The talking is
because the actual releasing, like you remember, it doesn't actually take that long.
Oh my gosh. And the sway, that was so crazy.
I know. And those are and then even like, so some people will say like, now I'm crying for the day after, and I don't even know why I'm crying. So all of that is all the processing and all of it. I know, it's so all these things, right?
Yeah, it does go. So when I did the Reiki level 1 with you guys.
Yes.
Okay. I honestly, there was a swaying in that I was doing when I was practicing. Yeah. I thought I was like falling over sweat. It was so crazy. Anyways, it's just so fascinating.
And how have you found it? Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, our bodies are crazy.
Like, our bodies are crazy. And I was talking about you in, when Stephanie was talking about the Reiki training,
yeah,
and how you did not think that you would be able to do energy work. but how have you, like that day, you were remarkable. Like
that was crazy. Like I still can't, because yes, like for me, I was like, oh, I'll never be able to do this.
yeah,
Like I'm here to just,
yeah,
spectator really.
yes,
And oh my God, like the energy I got or whatever happened. So my participant or what would I call her?
you're participant.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, um, oh my gosh, when I was doing it was so crazy. And it was only once I got to, I think, her heart. And then I could have taken all my clothes off. I was so hot. I was trembling. My heart was racing.
yeah,
I could not. And then finally I had to lay down because I was like, I'm either gonna faint or like I better just lay down. Some things. And then the crazier part was when you grabbed onto her feet, because that was the next step. It was like you released me and the energy, like it like stopped. It was so crazy. Oh my goodness.
I know. See? And so now this is what I say to people who have done level 1 is that then if they do not do consistent work at home,
Yes.
you forget it.
Have to keep doing. I've been bad at that. There is a part of me that it kind of freaked me out. In the sense that it freaked me out that I was like, oh, I might actually be able to do this. Like, I don't actually think I was ready for that. Maybe that's almost like Steph's first reaction, because she had done it once before, and then again. I think there's a piece of me that's probably not ready for it. Yeah.
That's good. Like, that's good to know. I think just in general that some people are, when they're so ready for it, you welcome it in. But when you're not realizing that actually you are capable of doing this, right? And then you receive it.
Yes.
That means.
And then there's also a part of that is deep inside me that's like, no, that was just whatever it was,
Right.
You were just hot, which is insane because it was freezing cold in that room.
I know.
like really, when I think about it, I'm like that.
But that is what I say too for me, right? Like even now, so many years later, how I can't even tell you how many people, how many sessions I have done now, 1,000, I don't even know. And I will still say, was that a coincidence? Like right? Like my mind will still go to, is this like, so it's the same thought. Like, so I think for me to be very honest with all the listeners, that I think that is something that we all play with is because like I'll have people who are top men in businesses saying, I have a conspiracy theory for themselves to go like, I don't even know how I got here. Right? Like everyone has that. And so to recognize it, just like we said earlier about being out on the street where, you have these thoughts or you're looking at somebody, it's that we all have them. So owning the thought and hearing it for yourself to go like, okay, well, deep down, that is the one you want to own, where you're like, did it really happen? Or was that like a passing moment of being really hot in an ice cold room?
Exactly, right? And it's like it's all of every insecurity and every like
Yes.
Yeah, like I'm not worthy of this. So
Yes.
obviously it didn't really happen. It was just coincidence, like you
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
And I think that's as soon as we start to go like, okay, no, I get where that's coming from, why I'm thinking that, and why for me it's so important for me. I don't need to validate it to the world, but I need to share like, oh my gosh, it happened again. Like, okay, and at some point maybe I won't be as shocked with it, but I still am, which also I like because it keeps it sort of like humble and exciting. And like when I'm in a session, I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And for that person too, to
Yeah,
feel process almost.
yes.
It's all exciting. The one thing, so I'm doing your Bewitched Bewildered course right now. And it's on Tuesday, so we're gonna be
It's tonight.
not airing on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited for tonight. And I have been, oh my God, they've been so amazing. So but the biggest thing that I'm the through line, that because of everyone's having problems with being able to do the writing and
Yes,
is the insecurity,
I know.
right? Like it's once you get past that insecurity, I think you have now opened yourself up to it.
I think when I think about it going like, okay, well, what is it? Like, why? And I honestly think for everybody, that's it. Like, it's just this, like, because when I'm listening to like what people are writing or what they're saying, it's like, I didn't write that word, or I didn't think, we're talking about automatic writing if people are understanding what we're saying. And so when I'm listening to people, what they're saying, it's like, but I didn't do that, or that wasn't part of me. So they stop themselves from being really free in the moment. And so when I was giving examples of, right, when I'm writing about, oh, to the flower of the whilst be wander, or whatever that I'd written, or whatever, when I'm asking about like, will my boyfriend last? And it's talking about me flying away on a wing of something or other, right? Like the response back does not make any, I mean, it makes perfect sense when you read it, right? Like out loud.
It answers your question.
It answers the question.
But not in your words, which is so like that. Steph's one too, like it's crazy. Like I cannot, I'm trying, but
that's where you almost need to not try.
Yes, I think that's it. Yeah.
And sometimes when I try, it doesn't work, right? Sometimes when I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I really need an answer right now. I really need something. And then I try to write, I am writing, which is okay. That's just a different idea. It's when I actually release in and just go like, okay, then I get it. But if I try, I don't get the same.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because you almost have two sides of your head going, where it's like you have this one saying you'll never be able to do this, and then the other side going, I want this so bad.
And then so you have to, what I believe, and this is why, like, I mean, Jessica said, I'm one of 7% of the world, which makes me ridiculously challenging to work with, is I believe it's not this side or this side.
It just came to me.
Right here.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
because neither of these are going to give you the answer.
Well, and neither of those are, like, those are just every awful thing I've heard about myself or said to myself, or everything I want for myself. Like, it's not actually, I guess, what would you call it that I would be after? Like, my source? Yeah.
So when you're thinking about this, it's like when you're getting that information, that higher self you or source,
that's the word.
It's funneling through, not from here. So it's coming like up higher. So it's like imagining yourself going to a different place and that information's coming through. These two sides won't give you any information.
And exactly. And the chatter that's going on in my head is my chatter, is like
your chatter,
is the things that I was up with, those. Yes. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Not like
it's like you're
again me being negative about, not like it's gonna
no, but it's basically like you're saying like, okay, to yourself, like, what's the question I want? Then you're saying, give me, like, you're like saying like, I'm ready now, give me the info and put it in there. So like, you're like, if you can envision that, to say like, okay, I'm ready. Okay, something is going to come funneling through there. I don't know if that helps.
It does. I just don't know now how to get over myself, basically.
Yes.
To be able to listen to that.
Yes.
So that's what I'm working on, and it sounds like most of the girls in our class are.
And I think most people are, I think, right? Like that's where, like, in it. And so why I say, and I mean, we might cut this part, but why I say, when you, all the little things, which is what we're working on in the course, is every little thing that you're doing by even going to a pendulum store or going to a store and getting a pendulum, doing that. So it's not actually the act of getting the pendulum. It's the confidence to go into a store and feel uncomfortable. It is doing things out of your norm. It's talking to a friend about something that makes you feel uncomfortable. Anything like that allows you to step outside of your ordinary and step into your intuition. Writing in a dictionary and understanding all of these things allows you to understand the old parts of you and embrace the new parts of you. So when somebody's saying like, oh, can I use the necklace? Yes, of course you can. But creating uncomfortable situations for yourself will allow you to welcome this new information and trust a new part of you.
Okay, it's weird you say that because just recently I have been starting to either say the uncomfortable thing that I want to say. Yeah, like leaning into that where obviously we don't do it because it's scary and we're scared really.
Yeah.
And I just started to like, I don't know what it is, but just being pushed to like whatever is in my head right now is saying like, just say it, just say it, just say it, just say it.
Yes.
So that makes a ton of sense. Oh my God.
Yes.
Where do we go from here?
I think we're like pretty much, so we could,
we've
pretty much solved all the problems we should talk about though, just so that, I don't even know how much, what are we at? I think we're like 2 hours. So, of course, I don't know what we're going to even cut out. So we could end on this, on the monthly membership.
Oh my God, I'm so excited about, okay, yes.
So let's talk about that just so that we have, like, people have an idea of what's coming.
Yes, so Cindy has created this, and it's just, oh my God, I don't know how to explain it now.
Well, okay, so what, like, I think if we can think about, I have been looking at, thanks to you, different ways to reach more people and ways to like, we're looking at ways to go like on YouTube. That's going to be one way we're going to go. And I wanted to create some different ways because so that I wasn't doing only one-to-ones and some group work, how I could have a meet with people that maybe can't just do a one-to-one all the time, but I want to keep people connected and keep them kind of like in line and in check
and doing more work.
Doing
like
the
that's
work.
how I look at it, is like,
Yes.
I've done the one-on-ones with you, and now I just need something to keep me
here
going and moving forward in the right direction. But I don't need anything like I don't need to be seeing you all the time.
No.
I would love, and oh my God, you're so good at this. Like, you just, this is so what you're supposed to be doing. Like, just the amount of content you provide for people and the content you're giving me to put together is going to be so helpful for people.
Well, it's a challenge I have, is I have so much content. I just don't have it in a way that I will often be like, oh, I've got this, I've got that, but we're putting it together streamlined. But what I've always said to people is, imagine your intuition as like a muscle, and it's not going to stay like tight like your abs. If you go to the gym once, or you do one meditation, or you know, those things, like it's an ongoing process. And this inner work, it can be hard, it can be uncomfortable, but the end goal is that you feel more in line with who you are. And I have seen that for myself because I have done this work and people will say that now, like, oh my gosh, look what your life, like, and some of it's messy, of course, but I feel empowered because it's my life. And that is what I want to do now with people, is to say, come, yes, we can do a one-to-one session. I love one-to-one sessions, but now come and join the monthly membership where we'll do all of this for you as well. And it doesn't have to be like, I see people charging so much money, and that's great. I just don't, I want everyone to feel
everything you've said from the beginning, because obviously I am very business based, and I don't want to say money driven. That's not it at all. It's just there needs to be a return on the investment, right? And for you, you're just like, you just want to help everyone. And if you make no, like, yeah, like you're not thinking about the money. You just to strictly help people. So luckily, sorry guys, I'm here to get you to make a living for yourself. My God. And you need to be doing this. And the more, the amount of people you're going to be able to help now that you're not working a full-time job.
I know. So that's exciting. And then I think creating this, this place for us to be together, where, so the idea is that each month we'll have a theme, and you have the nice way of having it look like nice and streamlined, and they'll have, what is it, like a morning text they'll get? You can say what they're going to get.
Yeah. So they'll get a morning text. They'll also have a calendar. And so Cindy obviously will, what would you say, downloads?
I always say they're like nudges. They'll just be.
So every day there'll be like a little nudge of maybe something to be thinking about. There's going to be journal prompts for the month. And again, going back to whatever we're working on that month, right? Yes. And hopefully like all of this will just be guiding you to being, what would you say, like being your authentic self, I suppose.
Being like your unique, quirky you.
Yeah, no, it is, my goodness, Cindy, like you think about how much programming we have, because my entire life before, I want to say the last 2 years, was superficial, right? Like the car, the house, the job, all that stuff that we think we need. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, none of that matters. Like none of that matters. Like what I wasted basically 40 years of my life just thinking that that's all that mattered.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy now. My God. It's so freeing. It's just so, yeah, maybe that's it, is just, oh God, just feeling free to do what you want with your life, because it's what you want, not what you think you should have, I suppose.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I know. And I'm so excited to be putting it together too, because this is just like everything I love.
Yes. So I just feel like it's like getting those ideas together. So they're going to have the text, the journals, they're going to have ideas, right? Some things to think about. Meditations.
Oh, your meditations are so good. Yes.
And then they're going to have, and then one Zoom, right? Yes. Where we'll come together.
And then talk things through. I am loving, like in the Bewitched Bewildered course we're doing right now, getting everyone's feedback and hearing. Oh, I just love that so much.
Like, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is just to be able to have that community where you stay connected. And so that's what I just think that was such great feedback, even after Reiki training, where people said, you know what, when you're in that space together, you feel a bubble of bliss, right?
That doing that together, like you're so right. Like you will forever feel bonded with those girls, and everyone was so open. And like, when does that happen in life? Oh my gosh,
with the monthly membership.
Totally. Oh my God, I cannot wait. And oh God,
I know. So that's what, like, I think having this thing where, you know, you just, you know, you do your membership for the gym, you do your membership for these things, own a membership for your mind and for your own inner soul. And I always say now, it's like we have these self-care, but it's like, I say, go a leap further and do it for your soul, because your soul comes down here time after time. And at what point are you actually going to start caring for your soul's journey, who's coming back here again? So taking this time to say, I am going to actually start to do the work so that on the next time my soul's here,
In like, if I could just say that, like, just starting on this journey, God, my life is so much, it's just so crazy. It's just so crazy. I never thought, I just feel so free. I can't even tell you
oh,
how, yeah, it's so crazy. And like people judging me, I have very, like, that used to consume my life. Like every thought was like, is someone, what are they thinking? And and it was also me judging them. Like the whole thing was just this big ball of judgment that now, like, you have made me realize that it's just like, why would we judge? Why would we do that? And why would they do that? And yeah, it's so crazy. Oh my God, sorry.
no, I love it. So we are going to put a free one out for December.
Yeah, so from the 17th onward, so it really, oh my goodness, it will totally, I think for people, like my thought would be, and this is what I will be doing from the 17th onward, is just taking that time in the morning to go through what you have set out, the plan for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's basically, you're going to have your journal prompts. Cindy has some really great advice to get through the holidays. And then, so the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to do it in the morning when I'm doing my normal meditation, and then likely revisit it again at night. That's my plan. I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's good. I think that just giving yourself time to where you've set aside for yourself. And even on a couple of the days, I think early on, like on the 19th, I've said, like, create a quiet, cozy place for yourself during the holidays. So that even, like, people don't do that, right? So I think then if you can do that, and also for the, well, it's free, people are going to get to try it, but really then also organizing a time where you actually are going to say, you know what, for 10 minutes in the morning, I am going to start to do this and create an organized time for me to go through and do this intentional, like,
yeah, the one thing I was thinking, just because it's already kind of relieved, I don't have a lot of stress over the holidays. Like, I love this season so much, but it just, I was starting, like, it was like, oh, I was feeling like I would already be grounded through this process. Like, I would start my day with actual intention rather than the scatteredness of the holiday season, right? Like, what do we need to do? Where do we need to be? Who do I need to buy a present for?
And then it just slides us right into the January, right? So that you're coming, it's not like you're January, like going in like, okay, now I'm ready. Like, this gives you that nice bit of, I've set myself up, I'm ready, I'm feeling organized, so that I'm coming into 2022 ready to go. And I'm feeling good. Not I'm feeling like, what the, like, like,
totally. We really go through a crazy season, and then now we're supposed to almost like start from scratch, right? Like, but it's mayhem up until that point. So why not like ease our way into now a new year? And I loved the thing you had at the end where it's write a love letter to the year. For yeah, I love that, and I like cannot wait to read that again next year.
Hey. I know this is the sentimental thing of me, right? But
I love it.
Yeah. I know. So we're going to set that up and get that out to people. So that's what we're going to work on now. And also editing the longest podcast ever. Because when you and I get together, we talk for hours.
I blame me.
No, really, it's both of us. But thank you. And we'll get this up and going. And that was amazing.
Yay!
Yay!